First of all, I would like to say that if it wasn't for the white people, there would be no Negroes to worry about at all. It's precisely because the white people have looked after them medically and gradually brought them on. Within living memory, the African Negro was a savage. They were cannibals. Within living memory.
That's very insulting. I don't think that should be allowed to be said here. That's very insulting. We were savages. What do you mean when you say we were savages? That's very insulting.
I did start to say, is this a genetic thing? I know it's not, because that just doesn't make sense. That does not. All human, like, we're not. It's not because you have darker skin, your brain works different. That is not it. I know. But I did have the thought. I did. I have to be honest. I did. I'm like, what successful countries, nations have Africans sustained? That's a real question.
I had a discussion with a friend of mine, and he said, I can tell you what he said verbatim, but he basically said, black folks they're stupid. They have a lower IQ. That's what he said. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. How do these other countries become communists? Think about it. Think about globally, how many countries become communists? Did they become communists because they had a low IQ? Did they become communists because they were slow, because they were dumb? No, they became communists because the culture was changed, and the culture was mirroring communism. So they made a communistic culture for the country, people to grab onto. The problem is that folks don't want to acknowledge that black culture. Imagine a child, both parents in the house have an ideology that white is bad.
Yeah.
Both parents in the house live their life, and their rhetoric to their child is that white is bad. When a child watches a TV show, there's references to racism and white is bad. When a child watches a movie, it's showing that white people are racist. When a child opens a history book, white people. So I'm asking people are saying it's IQ, but tell me what aspect of American culture does not placate to black culture? It all does.
It was the economic struggle didn't work. This was this cultural shift is the only way that communism advanced. They advanced it through black people. The anywhere that there was minorities, brown minorities of any shade, that had any type of history, of negative history with Europeans in any kind of way, you were eligible to claim, to get on the cult, to get in the cult, to be on the woke train.
Right.
You qualify.
Without even having experienced anything, you still get to partake. So even a person, Keisha, that grew up affluent, that never had a struggle in their life, that had all the great things out of life, they can still get on stage and say, I'm oppressed. Kyrie Irving said basically that he's oppressed. I'm like, Kyrie Irving made $375 million in the NBA and he's still oppressed. So I'm just trying to ask people, what do y'all expect to happen?
When are you not oppressed? Like, at what point do you not qualify for oppression? But that's the game, though. It's perpetual. That's what they want. You have to be perpetually a victim. That's why they have to brainwash you, because nobody's life, and especially in today's time, is perpetually that. Like, you can pretty much move. The world is really advanced. But it's like they don't want it to end.
And this is the problem with us not having representation as far as thoughts in media, where you just have one side being shown at a 98% clip. Like, it's just there's no parity in thought. It's just, this is what it is and that's it.
Yeah.
I'm saying, think about how apartheid was structured. It wasn't structured people think that, they say white Western culture, African culture is the same. So apartheid is wrong. But what if the Western culture, and the guy said it, he said Western culture, we've been around for almost 6,000 years. He said, but the Africans are 50,000 years behind that.
This is what you believe. Yes.
I believe.
Hold up.
I believe emotion is no use in matters of this kind. You've got to apply reason and common sense.
You can have no emotions because you have not been exploited. I know what it means to be black.
Talk. You see, that is the trouble. You will not let anyone talk. Our civilization, we can say, is 5,000 years old. We began, start from the Egyptians, the Greeks, the Romans, the Dark Ages, 1066 and all that. Very painfully and slowly we have arrived at the civilization which Europe has achieved today. But the African Negro, I maintain, is about 50,000 years behind our civilization.
Society, then you're going to have to do what? When in Rome, do as the Romans. And so I just think that culturally, a lot of cultures, that the further you go down from towards the equator and below the equator, I just think that the culture is, because life is a little easier, in my opinion, the weather's better, soil's probably more plenteous, fruits on the trees. I mean, you get like to me, a lot of your culture is affected by your climate in your area. So to me, it makes sense to have a more lax culture, right? But the problem is when another culture gets introduced, and that culture may function a little better than your culture. So now what do you do? Yeah. And so I don't think that the African nations they have a low IQ, but I would say that, I say this all the time, Keisha, I think it is a culture, it's a culture of low character, meaning that these cultures aren't necessarily built on, I want to say, biblical principles. They're not built on things like character and honor, and
right.
I think these cultures are built on more convenient.
Like war. They're built, from what I've learned, they seem to be very tribal. And I think I was listening to when you would talk to Chuck. I think he was saying like some of these people had to go and learn how to do other things because all they knew how to do was fight. Like when times were changing, all they knew how to do was fight. And they would like loan themselves out to fight, because that was the only skill that they had. So yeah, I think that's what they didn't pick up much after, society started to advance. And you talk about families, and I was having this conversation with a friend of mine, and we were talking about, sometimes you're just too hard on Black people, why can't we, yes, there's bad, why can't we focus on the good? And I said, when 75% of homes don't have intact families, what good exactly am I supposed to be bigging up? When we can't even get the basics, like, okay, what am I supposed? Oh, because you went to college, but you don't have a father in the house. Right. Oh, but you got a new car. Oh, you're a doctor. Oh, you started a business, but you have no. We are missing the foundation here. So what am I supposed to be bigging up? You don't know how to make and keep a family. Like, and that's what I'm saying, Blanche, like at the core, building a nation takes being able to build a family.
Right.
And if we can't do that in any, like, okay, we're not doing it in America. It's in the most freest, in the place where we should be able to do it. And then when you look at the world, what nations are, have been built and sustained by Africans or people of African descent? I don't know one. Not a prosperous, like a first world country. I don't know a first world, all African country.
Our grandparents, Keisha, they built things. They got married, they built, so if they were oppressed, so we see two groups of people, the white South Africans and our grandparents, they both, quote unquote, experienced oppression, but they still got married and they still built. So to me, it's not based on race. It's just based on the culture that our grandparents had.
That's true.
Now
Okay,
we have.
whew, I feel better now. I'm glad you reminded me. That's right, because before the Civil Rights Act, Black Americans at least were building and
Right.
sustaining. So
Right.
there we go.
And what they'll tell you is that it's racism. How can you guys dominate the entire country? How can, like, it's impossible. Like,
Yeah.
it's not, no, we're not going with that. You can use that as excuse over here, but not over there. You mean to tell me 99%, Keisha, and y'all still oppressed?
Right. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, it starts to make you think some uncomfortable thoughts.
I sent you that clip from YouTube.
Yes.
And the guy was, so the black guy, the South African guy was talking, and he was talking about how bad South Africa was, right, for black people. Then the guy next to him, I think he might have been Indian, he was trying to reiterate and piggyback what he was saying. But then when it got to the white people's turn to talk, as soon as the guy starts talking, everybody starts, they won't let him speak.
Yeah.
And I said, well, nobody interrupted those guys talking about how bad it was. So when they asked the guy said, well, he said, before we got to South Africa, he said they were savages. He said they were eating each other.
First of all, I would like to say that if it wasn't for the white people, there would be no Negroes to worry about at all. It is precisely because the white people have looked after them medically and gradually brought them on. Within living memory, the African Negro was a savage. They were cannibals. Within living memory.
Insulting. I don't think that should be allowed to be said here. That's very insulting. We were savages. What do you mean when you say we were savages? That's very insulting.
You're not going to the government. You're not going to the city government. You're not complaining. You're not protesting. You're not you're literally just living around dysfunction and chaos.
Yeah.
And then you're blaming white people.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all been in power since 91, Keisha. Mandela.
That's all they know how to do. That's what they're skilled in. That's the skill. Chad says, Martin Luther King took Black Americans from a trying race to a crying race.
Yeah.
And, they totally put down their skills and pick up a picket sign. And so that became the skill, because remember, they trained at that Hindenburg, whatever, at school of the communist school. What do you do for a job? You train. Police colors. She said, we are trained Marxists. You train, because now this is their job. This is the new industry. It's in the colleges. It's in the K through 12. It's
Hollywood.
It is on your t-shirts, and it's a textile.
Professional sports. It's in the sports world.
It is an industry. That is so crazy. And now they have exported it to South America, to South Africa. I keep saying South America. Yeah. Which includes ghetto culture, whatever you want to call it, Black culture, crappy culture.
Ratchet culture.
Yeah. That's what I see. And it's like, if this thing keeps growing, if this wokeness, this communism, if it keeps growing, and I'm sorry, but if the white folks don't, here's the thing, the knee-jerk reaction for all of this, I think, is for white people to now start to do the same thing that Black folks have been doing, which is to say, no, okay, you've been calling me a white supremacist. Well, I am a white supremacist. How about that? And then start to take on that identity. Then, down the line, we'll be going through the same things. It would be hard, but this is the path that we should take. White people need to stand up for themselves, but don't replicate the behavior.
Right.
You gotta stop. Be strong, be firm, stand up for yourself, but don't replicate that. Don't replicate the hate. That's where you're going to lose. I was saying the transitions in your life those are the moments where the enemy comes in and can really take you off of your path, because you're changing, you're in a transition, you're rounding the curve. A lot can happen in those turns in life, and it's like, okay, this is a turn that we're going through. Let's not get derailed and start doing what the enemy will want us to do. And the white folks start turning around and doing the same thing. That would not be good. I think Miss Graves said in the chat, it has to end somewhere, something to that effect. But that's true, it has to end, and if we keep doing it, it'll never end.
So. Yeah, I agree with you, Keisha. You don't have to fight fire with fire. You do have to, somebody has to be the bigger person. And I mean, honestly, it's going to be a tough task for the sensible white person, but you're going to have to, like you said, be firm and just be righteous, though. Don't stoop down to their level. You don't have to name call or anything, but stand on what is right. And they're going to call you racist anyway, whether you stoop down to their level or not. You're going to get the label. So you might as well do it the right way so you can be right with God.
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, that's who you're going to stand before.
Right.
There would be no Negroes to worry about at all. It's precisely because the white people have looked after them medically and gradually brought them on. Within living memory, the African Negro was a savage. They were cannibals. Within living memory.
I don't think that should be allowed to be said here. That's very insulting. We were savages. What do you mean when you say we were savages? That's very insulting. You don't like to hear that language here.
It's crazy. He's saying y'all were savages, and you the only one that stood up. Like,
you the only one.
What's popping? What you said? You stepped on my shoe. That's crazy. Like, that did not.
But he didn't call him a savage. He said they were savages when we like. He didn't say y'all are savages now. He said y'all were cannibals when we got over here. He said in living memory, like we can remember y'all was eating each other. But you know it's like a nerd picture.
You may answer, Chan. Go ahead. Yeah, this is what you believe. Yeah. Hold up.
I believe emotion is no use in matters of this kind. You've got to apply reason and common sense.
You can have no emotions because
the man is telling the truth. You have to be dispassionate about this stuff so you can think clearly.
Clearly, yes.
You have not been exploited. I know what it means to be
talk. You see, that is the trouble. You will not let anyone talk. Our civilization, we can say, is 5,000 years old. We began, start from the Egyptians, the Greeks, the Romans, the Dark Ages, 1066 and all that. Very painfully and slowly we have arrived at the civilization which Europe has achieved today. But the African Negro, I maintain, is about 50,000 years behind our civilization.
Yes.
Even on the assumption that that were true, what justification would it be for what you're doing? I mean, this seems to me that we all know about the Zulu Wars and all the rest of it, and the terrible forms of battles which took place there.
Look. It feels like they're like, oh, well, since he's being honest, let me be honest. Let me get comfortable and tell you what I really think, too. I've been wanting to get this off my chest. Look at his face. He's about to let him have it.
Anybody who studies African history knows it. But there can be no justification for an unjust society. And there can be no justification for a closed society. Now, what seems to me wrong about apartheid, I'm prepared, and you can see how they go for me. I'm prepared to advance slowly, but I must advance. And if you have a closed society, the vice of apartheid is that it offers no prospect for the future that one can see within any measurable time. It is a closed society, not an open society.
And but you are
Harry Bates.
prepared to
Can you
submit.
stop right there, Keisha?
Hold on for a minute, Harry Bates.
So basically, what that guy's arguing is that there needs to be a time period to where we get to a certain point and apartheid basically ends.
Mm-hmm.
But he says, how can you justify having an unjust society? But what you are playing semantics. What you all are calling unjust. If people are cannibals, you don't just say, okay, open society, let's all live together, let's all have. No, that's not how we do that. We got to establish order, rules, law, structure. Like, I'm not finna get eaten up late at night. So
thank you. Like, I think somebody in the comments said that. Let me see. He said, Polar Teddy said, well, I do not believe you, but at the same time, I don't want to be eaten. Thank
right,
you.
right.
Exactly. Yes, Miss Grace says someone must assimilate. Yeah, that's got to be some major assimilation. And could you imagine trying to take people who eat other people and get them to a place where, you know, remember on Finding Nemo, or no, Sharks Finding Nemo? I don't know. I can't remember. It's like fish are friends, not food.
We have more university graduates in Southern Africa, in South Africa, than the rest of black Africa.
And
All
working
put
in
together.
But you're never going to
And we
admit them to
are
citizenship.
moving.
You heard what he just said?
We're moving
Wait,
very rapidly.
what?
Hold up. Did you hear what he just said, Keisha?
I'm rewinding it.
Did you hear what that man just
And we
said?
are moving.
Citizenship, however
We're
many
moving,
gain.
we're moving very rapidly and toward the right. Yes. And also,
I say something about this?
well, do you mind if I finish?
Oh, no, not at all.
Thank you.
You're talking rubbish.
I would like
Wait,
to
I
say
don't
that
think I
hold
went back
no
far
grief.
enough. Hold on.
Hold on for a minute, Harry Bates.
We
It's not
have
true.
more university graduates in Southern Africa, in South Africa, than the rest of black Africa.
And
All
working
put
in
together.
Stop.
You're never
Keisha,
going to admit
did you hear what that man just
Are
said?
you serious? No way. This is what I'm saying. This makes me. That's crazy. What is the problem? Like this needs to be studied. Like what? This don't make no sense. Why are black people the only? Why aren't white people affected like this? Now I know we have white liberals in America, but a lot of them are just faking it. I think they don't. Some of them actually believe this stuff. Like some of them actually do, but only a small group of them of whites actually believe this stuff. They don't have 90 something percent of them of them believing it. But we got not the majority of black people believe a lot of this stuff, black Americans. And then you have these black South Africans, a lot of them believing this. What that is, I don't know what to say about that. I don't know. And that excuse me, I don't know what to make of that. I really don't.
But think about it, Keisha. It's almost like the presence of white people validates every excuse. So if a white person is in your area, that means just by their presence, that means that there's racism, there's oppression, there's what they call capitalism, there's what's the other word where they say they like colonialism. There was a history of slavery. Like just the presence of white people checks off about 10 boxes of programming and propaganda. So the white people, like the Iranians, literally, the people are upset with them because they said we want to separate and be by ourselves. They're still upset.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they say we only want white people here, why would you care if they separate themselves from society? Like, why does it even matter?
Right.
It matters, but it matters because at the end of the day, Keisha, this is jealousy. It's not. This is not. Think about it. Why would you even care? Like
it don't make no sense. That's what I'm saying, Blanche. Like, to me, this South African thing represents like where America can go.
Yes.
Because in many ways they are way worse than like their DEI and wokeness and communism is, you know, they got stuff on. They like, we coming to take your land.
They're actually doing it.
They doing it. I'm like,